Racist group tries to kill black woman, not knowing she's a Delta Force commander. The punch came fast. It shattered the window of the black Jeep Wrangler with a burst of glass and rage. Captain Maya Ellison didn't flinch. The man, a 6'2" brute with a Confederate patch on his leather vest, roared with laughter as he reached in through the broken window, expecting to yank out the quiet black woman he and his crew had followed for miles. He didn't expect the wrist lock. He didn't expect to be on the ground, wheezing, seconds later, with Maya crouched over him, arm twisted behind his back. The others dismounted their Harleys, boots crunching gravel outside the gas station in rural Georgia. The hot sun beat down on their shaved heads and tattooed necks. 5 of them. 1 of her. And Maya, unbothered, calmly let go of the man and stepped back, hands raised, pretending to retreat. "You messed with the wrong woman," she said under her breath. But the others didn't hear, or they didn't care. "Get her!" one of them barked, spitting on the concrete. "She needs to learn her place." They charged. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that Maya Ellison was a decorated Delta Force commander. She could have dropped all 5 of them in under 30 seconds. But she didn't. She didn't want headlines. She didn't want the attention. She wanted them to show their full hand. So she let herself get shoved against the Jeep. She allowed a cut to open above her brow. Then came the flash of blue lights. Sheriff's deputy vehicles skidded into the lot, sirens blaring. "Hands in the air!" shouted Deputy Colin Maddox. The bikers froze. Maya did too, slowly stepping back, blood trickling down her cheek. "She assaulted us!" yelled one of the gang members, clutching his arm. Maya looked straight at Deputy Maddox. Calm, silent. He glanced at the group, then at Maya, and despite the shattered window, despite the injuries on the bikers clearly caused by their own aggression, he cuffed her. "You're under arrest for assault," he muttered. Maya didn't resist. She let them put her in the back of the cruiser. She didn't say a word. Not yet. Because this was just the beginning. 6 hours earlier, Maya had been sitting in an underground briefing room at Fort Bragg, debriefing a classified operation in Syria. She wore her Delta fatigues with pride, her nameplate polished, her ribbons straight. Her commanding officer offered her a week's leave, a rare moment to breathe. She had laughed. "Leave? What does that even look like anymore?" She packed a duffel and drove south, wanting to see the small towns she hadn't stepped foot in for years. Just a day of silence, maybe a milkshake from some old roadside diner. She had no idea that stopping in Millstone County would lead to this. When she pulled into Tilly's diner, heads turned. It wasn't just that Maya was black. It was the way she carried herself. Straight posture, sharp eyes, quiet control, that rattled men like them. At the booth behind her, the Sons of Valor biker gang had been discussing guns, government conspiracies, and taking America back. She ignored them, sipping her coffee, skimming the diner's laminated menu. "Hey," one of them said, "you deaf sweetheart?" She hadn't responded. They followed her out of the diner, tailed her down Highway 12, waited until she stopped for gas before confronting her. And now she was in the back of a sheriff's cruiser, hands cuffed, lips split, staring out the dusty window at a town that judged her before she spoke a word. At the station, Deputy Maddox guided her into a holding cell, not even bothering to clean the blood off her face. "You're lucky we didn't shoot you, lady," he muttered. She turned to him, voice even. "You just made a mistake that's going to cost you everything." He laughed. "Yeah? You gonna call your lawyer?" "I don't need a lawyer," she said. "I need 5 minutes." Outside the room, another deputy, Tasha Greer, watched through the glass. Young, maybe 25. Her curls were tied back and her uniform still had that fresh-pressed look. She had seen plenty in the few months she'd been on the force, but something about this felt off. She pulled up Maya's name on her tablet. No priors. Nothing. Then something odd. Access restricted. Clearance level redacted. Tasha frowned. That wasn't normal. Inside the holding cell, Maya sat cross-legged on the bench, eyes closed, breathing evenly, meditating. Who the hell was this woman? Back at the gas station, the bikers celebrated. They were drinking beers by the roadside, laughing about how that arrogant woman finally got what was coming. They didn't know Maya had let them win. They didn't know that she'd memorized their license plates, faces, tattoos, and weapon types. They didn't know that one of them, Rook, had unknowingly dropped his burner phone during the scuffle, and that it now sat in a Ziploc bag in the evidence room, quietly pinging a nearby encrypted server used by a known domestic militia network. Maya knew. She knew it all, because this wasn't just about a racist gang. It was about something bigger. That night, Deputy Tasha Greer snuck into the evidence room. She needed answers. She opened the bag with the phone, accessed its storage. What she found stunned her. Maps of federal buildings, military outposts, a picture of Maya taken 3 days ago. Before the diner, before the ambush. This wasn't random. They had targeted her. Tasha's fingers trembled as she took screenshots, transferring everything to a flash drive. She returned to the desk and glanced toward Maya's cell. Maya opened her eyes, their gazes locked. For the first time, Maya nodded. A silent message passed between them. It had begun. By morning, the whole town would know a truth they weren't ready for, and by the time this was over, the Sons of Valor would wish they'd never laid eyes on her. Because Maya wasn't just any woman, she was Delta. And now, she was done playing nice. Tasha Greer stood in the sheriff's department break room, staring at the blinking cursor on her computer screen. She hadn't been able to sleep since her late-night discovery. The image of Maya Ellison's profile, heavily redacted, the kind of clearance level no civilian or regular cop should have access to, was burned into her mind. And that flash drive hidden in her boot? It felt like it was pulsing with danger. She'd only been in law enforcement for 9 months. A rookie. But she wasn't stupid. Something about this whole thing stank. She spun around as the door creaked open. Sheriff Boyd, gruff, red-faced, and quick to anger. The kind of man who spoke with his chest and didn't care much for being questioned. "You pulled the graveyard shift now, too?" he asked, sipping from a chipped coffee mug that read, "Back the Blue." Tasha smiled weakly. "Just couldn't sleep. Thought I'd review some reports." He stepped in closer, lowering his voice. "You thinking too hard about that woman we brought in yesterday? The one with the attitude?" Tasha's stomach tightened. "A little. There's something about her. She's a problem," he cut in. "The kind of person who thinks they can stir up trouble and play the victim. Trust me. Let it go." But Tasha didn't. She waited until he left, then slipped back into the evidence room. She pulled the burner phone from its bag again and tried to dig deeper. It took her 10 minutes to find a hidden folder. A video file. It was grainy, recorded from a drone. But what it showed made her gasp. It was Maya, in full tactical gear, fast roping from a Black Hawk helicopter into what looked like a desert compound. The footage cut in and out, but there was no mistaking it. She was leading a team. Precision strikes, hostile takedowns. This wasn't some ex-military civilian. This was someone active, someone dangerous. Across town, in the Millstone Motel off Route 88, the Sons of Valor had taken up residence in rooms 4 through 7. Their leader, Daryl Knox Barton, stood shirtless at the balcony rail, chain-smoking Marlboros and barking orders on a burner phone. "Yeah, she's locked up," he said. "We'll make sure she doesn't get out." On the other end of the line, a distorted voice replied, "You better. She's seen too much. If she connects the dots, this whole thing blows open." Knox's eyes narrowed. "Don't worry. Cops around here know better than to ask questions." But he was wrong, because at that very moment, Maya was watching. The sheriff's station may have locked her in a cell, but that didn't mean she was helpless. Far from it. Hidden in the lining of her cargo pants was a micro-tracker. Her team knew where she was, and she was counting on that. Later that morning, Tasha sat across from Maya in the holding area. She'd convinced Deputy Maddox to let her ask a few follow-up questions, but really she just wanted to understand who she was dealing with. Maya met her eyes without flinching. "You saw the footage, didn't you?" Tasha nodded slowly. "Then you know I'm not the problem here." "I believe you," Tasha said quietly, "but I can't just—" "You can," Maya interrupted. "Those men weren't after me randomly. They targeted me. That phone? It links them to domestic terror networks." Tasha hesitated. "So what now?" Maya leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Now you help me make a call. One number. You don't need to know who. Just trust that when I make it, everything changes." Tasha's heart pounded. "You're asking me to break protocol." "I'm asking you to do what's right." There was a long pause. The silence stretched between them. Finally, Tasha stood up. "I'll see what I can do." Back at the motel, Knox and his crew were getting ready to move. They'd heard a whisper through a back-channel telegram group that someone in D.C. had flagged their location. The kind of chatter that only happened when things were about to go south. Knox wasn't the kind of man who ran from a fight, but he also knew better than to poke the wrong bear. "We burned the truck," he told his second-in-command, a bald, twitchy man named Reese. "We dumped the rest of the files, anything that ties us to that operation. Gone." Reese nodded and started packing. What they didn't know was that Tasha had just slipped Maya her phone, and Maya had already sent the message. By sunset, the sky above Millstone County had begun to shift. 2 unmarked SUVs rolled past the sheriff's office. They parked quietly in the alley. 4 people stepped out, each one in plain clothes, but their posture and pace screamed federal. They didn't ask for permission. They walked straight in. Sheriff Boyd met them at the front desk, confused and annoyed. "Can I help you?" The tallest of the agents flashed a badge. "Lieutenant Commander Maya Ellison is to be released into our custody. Now." Boyd stiffened. "She's under arrest." "Not anymore." The second agent stepped forward, leaned in, and whispered, "Unless you want the Justice Department crawling through every inch of your station, I suggest you hand her over." The sheriff looked at Tasha, then at Maddox, who shrugged helplessly. 2 minutes later, the cell door clanged open. Maya stepped out, eyes calm. "I told you," she said to Maddox. "You made a mistake." Then she turned to Tasha and gave a nod that said everything. "Thank you." Back at the motel, Knox's crew was halfway through burning evidence when the power cut out. A second later, flashbangs exploded through the windows, and the roar of boots filled the rooms. Within 10 minutes, every man was zip-tied and face down, and Maya was standing in the doorway, no longer in jeans, now in full Delta gear, helmet under her arm. Her eyes met Knox's. His jaw trembled. "I told you," she said softly. "You messed with the wrong woman." And then she walked away as the agents took over. Outside, Tasha stood watching as the trucks rolled in and the gang was loaded up. Maya approached her. "You didn't have to help me," Maya said. "But you did." Tasha shook her head. "I just did what felt right." Maya smiled. "That's how it starts." Tasha looked down. "You heading back to wherever it is you go?" Maya looked out toward the hills. "Not yet. There's still work to do." And with that she vanished into the night. But the town of Millstone would never forget the day a black woman in cuffs turned out to be the most dangerous force they'd ever crossed. And justice, once asleep, was now wide awake. The last light of dusk fell over Millstone County like a shroud. Sheriff Boyd sat alone in his office, flipping through Maya's intake file, frustration simmering under his skin. Something about the whole situation didn't sit right with him. The way those federal agents walked in like they owned the place. The way Maya didn't blink when she was released. And the way Tasha Greer suddenly had more confidence in her step. He picked up the phone and dialed a secure number taped under his desk. "It's me," he said into the receiver. "We've got a situation." Across town, Maya sat on the edge of a motel bed in a different room now. cleaner, secured by her team. She was still in civilian clothes, blending in as much as she could for now. Agent Reed, a tall, sharp-eyed black man with a military bearing, stood by the window with arms crossed. "Your cover's been blown," he said quietly. "I was counting on it," Maya replied. Reed frowned. "You sure you want to stay in this town?" "I'm not done yet." Reed gave a slow nod. "Knox and his men are in custody, but only the foot soldiers, the ones with tattoos and loud mouths. The chain runs higher, deeper. That's why I'm still here." Maya reached into her duffel bag and pulled out the flash drive again. "This was never about me. It's about what they're planning. There's a target, something big." Reed sat down opposite her. "We decrypted part of it. A name popped up. Ethan Ward. Ring a bell?" Maya's jaw clenched. "Yeah," she said. "He used to be one of ours. Special Forces, 201st Battalion. Got discharged for conduct unbecoming. Went private, then disappeared." Reed whistled. "And now he's aligned with domestic extremists?" "Worse," Maya said. "He's organizing them." Back at the sheriff's station, Tasha stood near the evidence lockers, second-guessing everything. She wasn't sure if she'd crossed a line or if she'd just found her purpose. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, blocked number. She stepped outside to take it. "Tasha Greer," said a voice she didn't recognize. "Who is this?" "You helped Maya Ellison. That makes you a target." The line went dead. She spun around, suddenly alert. The parking lot was empty except for a single pickup across the street with darkened windows. She stared at it for a beat too long. The engine roared to life, and the truck peeled away down the highway. Her pulse hammered in her throat. The next morning, Sheriff Boyd called a meeting in the department's main conference room. All deputies were present except Tasha, who had been kept out intentionally. On the screen behind him was a still image of Maya, an old military ID, partially redacted. "This woman is not who she says she is," Boyd began. "And while the feds might have pulled her out of here, I believe she's a threat. She's been poking around, asking questions, and I think she's trying to undermine this department." Deputy Maddox frowned. "With all due respect, Sheriff, if she's military, don't we owe her the benefit of the doubt?" Boyd's eyes narrowed. "No, we owe this community safety. I want surveillance on anyone she talks to. That includes Deputy Greer." A beat of silence followed. "Yes, sir," came the reluctant reply. Meanwhile, Maya and Reed met with an informant, a skinny teenager named Lucas, who worked at the gas station near the truck stop. He wore a hoodie too big for him and spoke in low whispers. "I saw them," he said, 3 nights ago. Men in the back room at the old textile mill. They were loading crates into a van. I think it was fertilizer or something. Weird chemicals. Smelled like bleach and metal." "You sure it was Knox's crew?" Reed asked. Lucas nodded. "One of them had a tattoo on his neck. Snake wrapped around a rifle. I seen it before." Maya's stomach dropped. "That's not Knox's crew. That's Ethan Ward's symbol." Reed straightened. "We've got a new problem." Later that day, Tasha drove to her father's house just outside of town. It was a small, tidy home on a dusty road, and he stood outside waiting for her. Retired Army. Quiet but sharp. "You're in trouble," he said as she got out. "You heard already? You think the kind of people Maya's dealing with don't talk?" He motioned for her to come inside. "You need to lay low." "I can't," she said. "She's not the threat. They are." He gave her a long look, then reached into a drawer and handed her a key. "Storage unit. Inside is everything I kept from my time in the service. Weapons, armor, records. If you're stepping into this fight, don't walk in unarmed." Tasha took the key, her hand trembling. "Thanks, Dad. Make it count." Night fell again over Millstone, and Maya stood on the rooftop of an old bakery turned safe house. She scanned the horizon through a pair of binoculars. Reed stood next to her. Ward's name just triggered an NSA alert. He's here, in town. Maya lowered the binoculars. Then it begins. Just as she said it, a flash lit up the horizon, an explosion at the sheriff's station. Maya's blood turned cold. Tasha! She didn't wait. She bolted down the stairs, Reed right behind her. By the time they reached the scene, the building was ablaze. Deputies were scrambling, civilians screaming. But Tasha was there, covered in ash, limping out with a bleeding arm, dragging a young prisoner to safety. Maya ran to her. "You okay?" Tasha nodded, wincing. "They weren't just trying to silence you. They're wiping everything." Maya grabbed her by the shoulders. "We fight back, but this time, on my terms." Tasha looked her dead in the eye. "Then tell me what you need." Maya's voice hardened. "I need everything. And this time, no more secrets." The stench of smoke clung to the air as the last embers of the sheriff's station burned out. Maya stood near the yellow tape, arms crossed, her eyes scanning every inch of the scene. Behind her, firefighters packed up their gear while deputies milled around with blank, shell-shocked faces. The explosion had taken out the evidence room, the records server, and most of the surveillance archives. Coincidence? Not a chance. Tasha approached, her arm now bandaged and her uniform singed at the shoulder. She looked tired, but there was steel behind her eyes. "They say it was a gas leak," she muttered. Maya scoffed. "And I'm the Easter Bunny." Tasha handed her a folded piece of paper, printout from one of the last surviving terminals before the blast. "It's a shipping manifest," Tasha explained. "Found it behind a locked drawer, a warehouse downtown, leased in someone else's name but paid for with county discretionary funds. Thought it might be worth a look." Maya scanned it, her jaw tightening. "This is where they're stashing the materials. Fertilizer, diesel, and plastic drums. They're building a bomb." Tasha nodded slowly. "For what?" "I don't know yet, but we're gonna find out." That night, the rain came down hard. Maya and Tasha crouched in the shadow of a steel dumpster, eyes locked on the massive corrugated metal warehouse. The perimeter was quiet, but not empty. 2 guards in civilian clothing patrolled casually, rifles slung low and eyes alert. Reed's voice crackled in Maya's earpiece. "They've got infrared on the roof. You've got about a 5-minute window before the next sweep." Maya turned to Tasha. "You sure you're ready for this?" Tasha gave her a hard nod. "I'm done standing back." They moved like shadows, low, fast, precise. Maya disabled the side entrance keypad with a pulse device and cracked the door open. Inside, the warehouse reeked of chemicals and motor oil. Stacked crates lined the walls, each stamped with fake agricultural labels. As they crept inside, the lights flicked on suddenly. "Looking for something?" The voice echoed through the cavernous space. A man stepped forward from the shadows, tall, muscular, salt and pepper beard, coal blue eyes. Ethan Ward. Maya froze. "Long time," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Still playing dress-up, Commander?" Tasha's eyes darted between them. "You know him?" Maya didn't answer. Her eyes never left Ward. "What are you planning?" Ward chuckled. "Same thing you used to, remember? Change. But the kind that sticks." He turned toward a display board leaning against a support beam. It showed a map, Washington, D.C., circled in red. Tasha gasped. "You're going after the Capitol." Ward looked amused. "Not me. The people. I'm just helping them. Focus." Maya's hand reached for her concealed sidearm, but Ward's men stepped into view, 4 of them armed, surrounding her and Tasha. "Don't," he said. "You're outnumbered. But I'm not here to kill you. Not yet." "Then why?" Maya asked through clenched teeth. "Because I want you to understand. You left them, Maya. You walked away from the uniform, the flag, from all of us. And now look at what's left. Crooked politicians, fake wars, and systems rigged against the very people you swore to protect. I left because of men like you, she snapped. He stepped closer, face inches from hers. And yet, here you are, playing hero, pretending you still matter. But you don't. Not here, not anymore. He motioned toward his men. Escort them out, nicely. The guards moved forward, grabbing Maya and Tasha's arms. But as they reached the exit, Maya slammed her elbow into one guard's throat and spun, disarming the other in seconds. Tasha followed suit, knocking her attacker off balance with a solid knee to the ribs. Gunfire erupted as they ran toward the back door. Reed's voice blared in Maya's earpiece. Extraction inbound. Get to the alley, now. They burst through the rear exit, bullets ricocheting off the metal walls. A black SUV screeched to a stop. Reed opened the door, yelling, "Move!" They dove in, the vehicle fishtailing as it sped off into the rain-soaked streets. Back at the safe house, adrenaline still coursing through her veins, Tasha collapsed onto the couch, panting. What the hell was that? Ethan's worse than we thought, Maya said. He's not just supplying a militia. He's organizing a domestic terror attack. And if he pulls this off, the fallout will rip this country in half. Reed joined them, setting down a tablet. We managed to grab one of the warehouse's hard drives before the shootout. It's encrypted, but our tech guys are already on it. Good, Maya said, because we're running out of time. She turned to Tasha. You held your own back there. Tasha smirked despite the bruise forming on her jaw. I had a good teacher. For a brief second, Maya allowed herself a smile. Get some rest. Tomorrow we go hunting. Far across town, inside an upscale hotel suite, Ethan Ward stood by the window staring out at the skyline. A man approached behind him, a politician. Well-dressed, nervous. You promised this wouldn't go public. Ethan didn't turn around. It won't, unless Maya makes it that way. And if she does, Ethan smiled to himself, then I'll remind her why she left Delta Force in the first place. The man paled. Ethan finally turned to face him. Because some truths are more dangerous than lies. The story had shifted. This wasn't about small-town corruption anymore. It was about something deeper, roots running all the way to the top. And Maya Ellison wasn't just fighting to stop a bomb. She was fighting to stop a war. The air was tense inside the safe house. A single bulb swung overhead, casting a jittery shadow on the walls as Maya sat at the table, eyes locked on the encrypted drive Reed had retrieved from the warehouse. Her fingers tapped steadily against the wood. Every second they lost was one closer to disaster. Anything yet? She asked. Reed adjusted his glasses, hunched over the laptop. Almost through. Whoever built this encryption wasn't messing around, military grade, maybe even CIA. Maya didn't flinch. That tracks. Tasha leaned against the counter, arms folded, still bruised from the warehouse fight, but more fired up than ever. You think Ward's acting alone? No, Maya said. Guys like Ward always have backers, people in suits who can smile into cameras while funding chaos in the dark. A loud ping interrupted the room's silence. Got it, Reed said, eyes widening. Maya, you need to see this. He turned the laptop toward her. Dozens of folders filled the screen. Names, routes, shipments. Photos of politicians, military bases, blueprints of public infrastructure. But what made Maya's stomach drop was the section labeled Operation Iron Dawn. She opened the Fin Mao. A detailed breakdown unfolded. Timelines, targets, support teams, code names. Reed's voice was barely above a whisper. They're planning simultaneous attacks on 5 major cities. Tasha stepped forward, reading over her shoulder. D.C., Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, and Denver. Maya clenched her fists. Coordinated domestic terrorism on a scale we've never seen. Reed pointed at the next page. And this? That's Ward's command list. Look at the bottom. A name jumped out like a slap to the face. Colonel Douglas Kent. Maya's voice turned icy. He trained me. Retired 10 years ago after a misconduct scandal. I always suspected there was more to it. Reed kept scrolling. He's been advising Ward, running logistics. He even signed off on a deal with a foreign arms broker. Maya stood. We need to intercept that shipment. If it reaches their hands, the casualties could be catastrophic. Where? Tasha asked. Reed pulled up a location. Port of New Orleans, 3 nights from now. The moon hung low and bloated as their black SUV pulled into a nondescript motel on the Louisiana outskirts. It was a halfway point, a place to regroup and plan. Maya took the last room on the corner, always closest to the exit. As she unpacked her gear, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A chill crept down her spine. She answered cautiously. Ellison. A distorted voice replied. You're getting close, Commander, but you're not the only one watching. The line went dead. She stared at the phone, jaw set. They know we're coming. At 3 a.m., a knock came at her door. Maya opened it to find Tasha, wide-eyed and pale. Room 203, she said. You need to see this. They moved quickly and quietly down the hall. Inside the room, Reed was hunched over a monitor, hooked up to a small surveillance drone. It just came back, he said, scanned the port early. The screen showed crates being moved, men in military formation, some in camouflage, others dressed as dock workers. But the final frame showed something else. An unmarked black helicopter landing behind the warehouses. That's not just a supply drop, Maya muttered. That's command. She turned to Tasha and Reed. We're not just stopping a shipment. We're about to walk into the center of their command operation. Reed looked nervous. That's suicide. No, Maya said, eyes burning with intensity. That's justice. 2 nights later, they arrived at the port of New Orleans under the cover of day. Maya wore her tactical gear beneath a long coat, her Delta Force patch tucked away. Tasha and Reed were stationed at perimeter points with radios and signal jammers. The plan was simple. Breach the compound, hijack the shipment manifests, and shut down communications before reinforcements could be called. But plans rarely survived first contact. As Maya slipped through a narrow gap in the fence, a sudden spotlight flared on her. A siren wailed. She darted behind a container, heart racing. Tasha's voice buzzed in her earpiece. They're swarming the south entrance. I'm pulling back. Reed came through next. Maya, you've got about 60 seconds before that chopper lifts off again. She moved fast, up a steel ladder, over stacked containers, and into the central office. Inside, guards were already scrambling. She tackled one, disarmed him, and slammed him into a desk. The second pulled a pistol, but Maya shot first. Clean, direct, no hesitation. She found the main server, pulled the external drive from her vest and plugged it in. Files began copying. The door burst open. Colonel Douglas Kent stepped in, older but still as imposing as she remembered. His voice was low and cold. I warned them not to underestimate you. Maya's eyes narrowed. You taught me everything, and now you're using it against this country. You still don't get it, he growled. You think this country ever protected us? Ever cared about people like you? I didn't fight for a perfect country. I fought to make it better. Kent raised his rifle. Then you're a fool. But he hesitated, and that second was all she needed. Maya lunged, knocking the barrel away as the shot fired into the wall. They struggled, 2 soldiers trained by the same system, locked in brutal combat. Elbows, knees, grunts, blood. Finally, Maya pinned him, gun at his temple. He spat blood. Go ahead. You think killing me will change anything? No, she said, breath ragged, but it'll stop you from killing anyone else. She pistol-whipped him into unconsciousness and grabbed the drive just as Reed's voice crackled. Extraction now. North side. She bolted out the back, disappearing into the fog as the sounds of confusion and chaos erupted behind her. In the safe house, later that night, Maya stared at the footage Reed decrypted from the new drive. It wasn't just attack plans. It was a list. Donors, political connections, embedded officers, all tied to Iron Dawn. Tasha looked horrified. This goes all the way up. Maya nodded. And we're not done yet. She turned to them both. We're going to burn this rot out from the inside. One name at a time. Because now it wasn't just about stopping Ward. It was about taking the whole damn system down with him. Maya stood in the makeshift command center, staring at the red-marked map of America. Every pin, every line, every date meant lives at stake. Her jaw clenched. The drive they recovered from the port was worse than anything they'd imagined. It wasn't just a domestic terror plot. It was an attempted coup, masked beneath the language of restoring order. Reed, pacing behind her, read off another name. General Lyle Norton, Pentagon advisor, tied to 2 defense contractors that moved money into Ward's shell orgs. Tasha sat on the couch, bruised and quiet, rewrapping a bandage on her ribs. How deep does this go? Maya turned to face them both. Far enough that we can't trust anyone above a certain rank. We need someone inside the Pentagon, someone we can flip or expose. Reed's voice dropped. What about Congressman Barrack? Maya paused. He chaired the Homeland Security Committee 2 years ago, went quiet after that scandal involving refugee detention centers. He's resurfaced in campaign circles, and he's on the donor list tied to Ward's militia group. Maya nodded slowly. If we can get to him, tie him to Iron Dawn publicly, it could blow this open. Reed raised an eyebrow. You thinking press conference? No, she said. I'm thinking ambush interview. The next morning, Maya walked into the bustling lobby of the Capitol Grand Hotel in downtown D.C., dressed sharply in a gray blazer and dark jeans, her curls tied back. To anyone watching, she looked like another political consultant with somewhere to be. She took a seat at the bar and waited. 15 minutes later, Congressman Barrack strolled in, flanked by 2 aides. The arrogance stripped off his tailored suit. She'd seen that walk before, in war zones, in embassies, in backroom deals. She signaled the bartender. Old-fashioned, light on the sugar. Her voice caught Barrack's attention. He turned. Excuse me, he said, approaching. Have we met? She smiled. I doubt it, but I've been following your recent fundraising push. Quite a comeback tour. He chuckled, lowering himself onto the stool beside her. Politics is just about timing, isn't it? Sure, Maya said, sipping, and making sure the right skeletons stay buried. His smile froze. I'm sorry, he said, voice cooler. Do I know you? Maya leaned in slightly. I know Iron Dawn. I know your offshore accounts. And I know about the weapons deal Ward brokered with Raymer Defense Corp., which you approved from your seat on the board. Barrack's face paled. You're bluffing. Maya pulled a small flash drive from her pocket and set it on the bar. This is already in the hands of a half-dozen journalists. But I thought I'd offer you a choice. He stared at it. Who are you? She leaned back, a flicker of steel in her eyes. Just someone who doesn't like traitors. That night, Barrack held a sudden press conference, citing a moral epiphany and announcing his resignation. But the real bombshell came when he publicly denounced the militia movement and turned over documents to the FBI. Maya watched the feed from the safe house. Tasha shook her head. I can't believe it worked. It didn't, Maya said flatly. He's trying to save himself, but now that we flushed him out, others will panic. Reed burst in, phone in hand. You need to see this. He projected a video onto the wall, a leaked body cam clip from an Iron Dawn training camp. The footage showed men dragging a young black woman into the woods. One of them, clearly drunk, laughed as he pulled out a knife. Then the clip cut to a different angle, infrared footage from a drone. What is this? Tasha asked, horrified. Reed's voice was tight. Someone in Ward's group is leaking their own ops. I traced the IP to a location in rural Virginia. Maya's mind raced. Someone's trying to warn us. Maybe they flipped. Or maybe it's bait, Reed warned. I'm going, Maya said. Tasha stood, not alone. The farmhouse was nestled deep in the Blue Ridge foothills, surrounded by thick trees and silence. As Maya approached, rifle slung across her chest, every instinct screamed caution. The porch light was flickering. One window was shattered. Inside, a young woman in civilian clothes sat on the floor, her hands raised. I'm not armed, she said shakily. My name's Rachel. I used to be one of them. Maya lowered her rifle, but not completely. Used to be. I joined for survival, Rachel whispered. They recruit people from broken towns, promise them brotherhood, security. But it's a lie. It always was. Maya studied her. Why leak the footage? Rachel wiped her eyes. Because I saw what they did to people like me. I'm half black. They didn't know. When they found out, they tried to burn me alive. Maya's stomach turned. How did you escape? They thought I was dead. I ran. Hid in the woods for 3 days. Maya sat beside her. You're safe now, but I need everything you know. Rachel handed her a flash drive. This has the internal list of all chapter leaders, safe houses, and planned targets. And something else. There's a senator in their pocket. Big one. They call him the Shield. Back at the safe house, Maya loaded the drive. The data was explosive. Dozens of state-level politicians, 3 judges, and a sitting U.S. senator. Tasha stared at the screen. We're not fighting a militia anymore. We're fighting a shadow government. Maya exhaled slowly. Then we take them out like insurgents, 1 cell at a time. But what if they go underground? Reed asked. Maya met his gaze. Then we smoke them out. Because war wasn't coming. It was already here. The storm over Washington wasn't just in the sky. It was in every agency, every corridor, every back room now scrambling to contain the truth. Maya stood in the hallway of a secure FBI substation, the walls around her humming with encrypted calls and panicked chatter. Agents passed by with folders marked urgent, glancing at her, then quickly away. She wasn't supposed to be there, but no one was going to stop her anymore. Reed stormed out of the briefing room. They're stalling, he said. Justice says they need confirmation from higher up before launching formal arrests. Maya folded her arms. They already have what they need. Witness testimony, financial trails, leaked footage. What more do they want? A bloodbath? They're afraid, he muttered. She turned away, anger simmering. Then we give them a reason to be more afraid of us. Hours later, the group gathered at a rented cabin deep in Maryland's Blackwater marshes. Reed, Tasha, Rachel, and now 2 new allies. Agent Nora Martinez from DHS and cyber specialist Elijah Cohen stood around a table cluttered with printed maps and screens. Rachel's fingers shook slightly as she tapped a red circle. This facility here, they call it the Foundry. It's where they train their elite squads, not militia wannabes. Real former operatives, ex-military, ex-CIA, even some dishonorably discharged Delta Force. Elijah whistled low. These aren't conspiracy nuts. These are professionals. And tomorrow, Rachel continued, they're transporting 3 high-value assets to the Foundry. Civilians, whistleblowers, they're going to disappear. Maya leaned in. Where? Southwestern Virginia, backwoods, remote enough for a covert airstrip. Maya scanned the team. Then that's where we go. We intercept the convoy, expose their operation, and make it public. All of it. Tasha frowned. We're outnumbered, under-equipped, and we don't even know what kind of security we're walking into. We're not walking, Maya said. We're striking. The next day at dawn, Maya suited up in her old Delta gear, black tactical suit, boots, vest, and her hair pulled back in a braid. She clipped the comm unit onto her collar and stared into the mirror for a second longer than necessary. Reed appeared behind her. You sure about this? She gave a faint smirk. When have you ever known me not to be? I'm just saying, last time you wore that uniform, it was for Afghanistan. This is worse, she muttered, because this time it's home. The convoy rolled down Route 64, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows and illegal plates. Inside one, a gagged journalist, Kara Yates, stared wide-eyed at the armed man beside her. Half a mile ahead, Maya and her team had blocked the road with a broken-down livestock trailer, smoke drifting into the air. The convoy slowed. Reed's voice crackled in her earpiece. Now. Smoke bombs detonated on both sides of the road, and gunfire ripped through the silence. Maya dove in first, rolling under one of the SUVs and slicing the fuel line. Tasha flanked from the tree line, taking out the rear guard with 2 clean shots. Elijah jammed the convoy's comms while Nora deployed flashbangs to scatter the remaining escorts. One of the militia leaders jumped out, rifle raised, only to freeze when Maya stepped out of the smoke. "You," he hissed. Maya advanced, weapon down, but eyes locked on him. "I remember you. You led the breach at Marja." She stopped. "And you left your team behind to die. Guess old habits die hard." He swung. She ducked, landed a punch to his ribs, then twisted his arm and dropped him to the ground in 3 fluid moves. Classic Delta. Behind her, the journalists were freed, the vehicle secured, and the rest of the militia either dead or restrained. At sunset, footage of the raid hit the airwaves. Elijah had uploaded it to 5 news sites simultaneously. Images of the kidnapped civilians, the training facility, the armed men. Every part of the conspiracy was now laid bare. On CNN, pundits scrambled to catch up. On Twitter, hashtags exploded. #Iron Dawn exposed. #Delta Commander speak/justice. Now, in a government office downtown, Senator Granger, the man known in secret circles as the Shield, hurriedly deleted encrypted messages, his face pale. And in a hidden corner of Fort McNair, Maya stood on the roof, overlooking the river. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, a gravelly voice. "You made a mess." She didn't blink. "Only cleaning up yours." "You made enemies, Commander." "Good," she said. "Let them come." She ended the call, and for the first time in weeks, breathed. But she knew it wasn't over. Not yet. The morning after the raid was oddly quiet, the kind of silence that comes not from peace, but from the weight of what just happened. Maya stood outside a small courthouse in Arlington, watching the gray clouds roll in, her boots damp from the morning rain. Across the street, news vans lined up like vultures, waiting. Inside, the hearing room was filled to the brim. Senators, federal prosecutors, journalists, and curious onlookers all sat shoulder to shoulder, each one clinging to the edge of the moment like it might collapse under them. Rachel took the witness stand first. Her voice trembled as she recounted what she had uncovered. The private contracts, the missing funds, the secret training camps. But it was her final words that sucked the air from the room. "They weren't preparing for war overseas," she said. "They were preparing for one right here, against us." Then came the evidence. Elijah's hacked documents, Nora's DHS briefings, even body cam footage from the rescue at the convoy. Each one nailed the lid tighter on the coffin of denial. And then it was Maya's turn. She didn't wear her Delta Force uniform, just a navy blazer over a plain blouse. Still, her presence shifted the air the moment she stepped up. "State your name," the prosecutor asked. "Maya Sinclair." "And your current occupation?" "I serve as a senior operations advisor to Joint Special Operations Command. Prior to that, I led Delta Team Bravo during operations in Iraq and Eastern Europe." The ripple of gasps around the room was sharp. One senator narrowed his eyes. "You were undercover?" Maya nodded. "Yes. For 2 years, I operated under a civilian identity to monitor rising domestic paramilitary threats. I wasn't just watching them, I was infiltrating them." He leaned forward. "Why stay quiet for so long?" She looked him dead in the eye. Because when I first brought my concerns to light, people in this room tried to bury them. That line dropped like a bomb. Across the gallery, Senator Granger went pale. Whispers stirred. Cameras clicked. It was clear now. This wasn't just about exposing a militia. It was about exposing everyone who let it grow. Hours later, Granger was escorted out in handcuffs, a sitting U.S. senator, his face frozen in disbelief. Back outside, a reporter shouted, "Commander Sinclair, what do you want to say to the American people?" She turned to the cameras. "This isn't just about me. It's about every person who's ever been told to stay quiet, to sit down, to wait their turn. We don't win by waiting. We win by standing. And that's exactly what I did." That night, Maya visited the cemetery alone. The headstone was simple, black granite. No rank, no decoration. Just the name of her father, a civil rights attorney who'd been harassed, threatened, and eventually murdered for defending protesters decades ago. She knelt beside it, brushing the leaves away. "We got one back today, Dad," she whispered it. "Just one. But I'll keep going." Behind her, Tasha waited silently, giving Maya space, then finally spoke. "They're offering you full reinstatement, Colonel, a seat in Joint Command, hell, probably a medal." Maya stood up. "I don't want a title. I want change." Tasha raised a brow. "So what now?" Maya smiled faintly. "Now we build. Not for revenge, for protection. We create networks. We train people, not to fight, but to survive, to resist. And if they come again, they won't be met with silence." A week later, a video went viral, a short documentary-style clip featuring footage from the raid, testimonies, and a final monologue from Maya herself. The screen faded to her, sitting on a worn wooden bench, sunlight behind her. You don't have to be a soldier to stand your ground. You don't need rank or uniform to protect your neighbor. You just need courage. And if you ever doubt that you matter, remember this story. Because I promise you, they're listening now. Fade to black. Then the words, "True power is what you do when no one is watching." If this story moved you, if it made you angry, inspired, or ready to speak out, don't let it stop here. Share it. Talk about it. Stand with those who refuse to be silenced. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories inspired by real struggles. Together we can push the truth into the light. Thank you for watching. We see you. We hear you. And we're not done yet.